We love you, but
We came to get the pizza.
yeah, next week, you gotta send pizza to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, hold on a sec.
6:03, not ready? I saw the live on YouTube.
Okay, so it's live. Okay, so okay. All right, are we ready to go?
We are calling the meeting to order, 6:03. Andy, can you please do a roll call?
Campbell,
Yes,
Cupertino,
Here.
Gilroy,
Here.
Los Altos,
Here.
Los Altos Hills, Los Gatos,
here,
Milpitas, Montessorino,
here,
Morgan Hill, Mountain View,
Here.
Palo Alto,
Here.
San Jose,
Here.
Santa Clara,
Here.
Saratoga,
Present.
Sunnyvale,
Here.
and Santa Clara.
Here.
Oh, sorry.
I was going.
Yeah, sorry. I have a line here for Santa Clara County, and I'm not sure why today. Okay. We have a quorum, and I just want to make sure because I thought we had a lot of Los Altos Hills is not present. Milpitas is not present, and Morgan Hill. So we have 12 present.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, next we'll do the consent agenda, and the only thing we have is approval of the minutes from the May 14th, 2020 meeting.
so move approval of the minute.
Second.
Call the vote, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, Campbell.
Yes.
Cupertino,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills, Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas, Montessorino,
Yes,
Morgan Hill, Mountain View,
Aye.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
San Jose,
Yes.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Aye.
Sunnyvale,
Yes.
and there we go. And so the ayes have it, 12 ayes and 3 absent.
Thanks, Andy. And we have an extra 10 minutes today because we don't have the selection committee meeting, but we still have a full agenda. So I'll do my best to move us along. As we move to the next agenda item, discussion and consideration of bills, I do want to change the order. As many of you know, majority of these bills are housing bills, and we want to discuss all the housing bills together. But we have 2 non-housing bills, and so we wanted to move those up so we could discuss them, decide how we move forward on those 2 bills, and then go back to the housing bills. So if I don't have any objections or concerns with doing that, I do want to start with the schools and communities first ballot measure.
They haven't arrived. They're some reason. I need to resend them the link. They're trying to get in, but it's not working.
Okay,
So I need to resend them the link. I'm sorry about that.
that's fine. So then let's move to SB 1431. It's a Glazer bill. And Chair Klein had recommended that we put this on our agenda. It essentially, and Larry, I'll also have you talk as well if you would like. But SB 1431 essentially allows for a disaster reassessment of properties to determine the impact of COVID on the property value. And so landlords, for example, can request a property tax reassessment based on the financial impact of COVID, looking at the eviction moratorium that many of our cities and the county adopted, rent freezes, and so on. And they could do this retroactive to April 2020. And depending on the reassessment, it may require local jurisdictions, cities, and school districts to essentially provide a tax rebate. to these property owners. And we would therefore have to, as you know, I'm sure you're familiar with the assessment process. So we have the January 2020 assessments that were done. And so with this new reassessment, we may have to go back and do these rebates to the property owners. And so I know Sunnyvale has already taken a position on this bill. So Larry, if you wanted to add anything before we open it up to discussion.
So I think you summarized it very well, Nisa. You know, from that standpoint, it would affect our cities and the school districts for conceivably closing out this fiscal year, and then all of a sudden having to come up with money to basically pay back certain property owners. And that to me was the biggest thing. So it came up in discussions that I had with our county assessor, Larry Stone. And, you know, I quickly had our staff go ahead and write a letter against it. I don't know where this bill is at the moment. I haven't been tracking it that closely, but to me, you know, this is, and property owners always have that capability, but the retroactivity of this bill is the bad thing. So it's conceivably going forward, asking for a reassessment is normal. And property owners, business owners are allowed to do that. But this retroactivity is the scary thing from a city and a school board district standpoint. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's a few hands raised, so who wants to call on them?
Wait just a second. Let me open up my participants. And then who's first? I see Councilmember Liz Miss. Go ahead, Liz.
So I think it sounds to me as though Larry has just explained it. It's the retroactivity, I'm guessing, that's a problem, because I recall in 9 and 10 when stuff was reassessed rather dramatically, and that wasn't a problem. So you're simply saying you don't want them to go backwards, they need to go forwards, right?
Correct. And that's a normal process that
Right.
from a
And they don't
county
get
standpoint,
any-
it's always
yeah,
there.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, next I see Mayor Scharf.
Oh, yeah, I'll just echo what Larry said. You can always apply for a reassessment, but to go backwards and think you're going to get reimbursed from cities and schools, you know, it's just absurd. I mean, you go into the rental business and you know there's risks, and this is just the cost of doing business. So, you know, I would favor opposition to that.
Right, and it would carve out the special disaster reassessment and include COVID, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, should we open it up to the public, Andy?
Yeah, hold on a second here. Is there anybody who would like to give a public comment on, we are at, sorry, which,
We are, it's under item,
SB 1431, right?
yep.
Yep, sorry about that.
item 3. No, that's fine.
Is there anyone who would like to give any feedback on SB 1431? You can toggle with *6 to unmute yourself, or *6 and *9 to raise your hand or to unmute yourself. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. And then are you able to lower the hands, Andy? Because I think.
Yes,
Liz
I
was-
can.
okay. And Vice Mayor Jones, did you want to make a point? Or-
Yes, I just want to understand, is the the primary objection is the retroactivity or just the whole concept of a reassessment? It sounds from the comments that were made, it's really about the retroactivity. So would that be support if amended, or what would be the?
It is so narrowly drafted, Chappie, I don't think they can amend it. I mean, the intent is clearly for COVID, and for them to apply it, it would have to go back. It would have to be retroactive because it's the impact on their property value since April. So it would have, there's no way to amend this based on how it's currently drafted, and I think the intent behind it. So I wouldn't even know in a letter how to recommend how to amend it.
Okay,
Good point.
Thank you.
I think it's just opposed. Yes, I agree.
No more questions or comments? All right. Do I have a motion for us to recommend it to the full board to oppose SB 1431?
So move opposition.
Second,
Who was the second from, please?
Liz Nez?
Okay, thank you. Okay, you ready for the roll?
Yep, thanks, Andy.
Campbell?
Yes.
Cupertino?
Yes.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Los Altos?
Yes.
Los Altos Hills? Los Gatos?
Yes.
Milpitas? Montecito?
Yes.
Morgan Hill? Mountain View?
she was here.
She is here.
Yes.
Margaret?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Hi.
Palo Alto?
Here.
Well, here, yes or no?
Here, yes.
She's just here.
San Jose?
Yes.
That's kind of how I feel today. Santa Clara?
Yes.
Saratoga?
Aye.
And Sunnyvale?
Yes.
Okay, so it is 12 ayes and 3 absent. The motion passes to oppose SB 1431. Okay,
Do we have the schools first?
yes, we do. And so I'm going to move them over.
Okay. So
Uh,
while you're moving them over, this is a ballot measure for the November 2020 ballot that proposes amending the Constitution, the state constitution, to require commercial and industrial properties, except for commercial agricultural properties, to be taxed based on their market value as opposed to their purchase price. And so we have a group, and I think they're called Schools and Communities First, that are supportive of this constitutional amendment. And so they would like to talk to us briefly, and they would appreciate getting the endorsement of the Cities Association.
Okay, so Bob, would you like to talk? And I also
Okay.
have this slide deck if you would want me to put that on the screen as well.
Sure. Could you do the slides? I'm just gonna try and, okay, there we go. Could you put the slides through and I'll just quickly walk through the slides and
Sure.
then, make some comments and would be very happy to answer questions. Schools and Communities First is trying to solve a fundamental problem that was created when Proposition 13 was passed. And that is Proposition 13, as you know, has a very arbitrary way of allowing property taxes to increase. They increase 2% a year, regardless of the level of inflation, or particularly the level of inflation for purchasing goods and services by governments and schools. And the only way that that can be corrected is when property is sold. Now, to some extent, that correction happens with residential property, because at least in a place like Santa Clara County, there's a lot of turnover in residential property. But for a variety of reasons, there's very little or no turnover in terms of major commercial industrial property. And that may be, for example, because the commercial industrial property is publicly traded, in which case no one ever really owns it. I mean, I have 100 shares of Cisco Systems. I don't own it, and no one else does either. Thousands and thousands of people have a small piece. So it's never sold, and there's never anything that triggers a reassessment. And as a result of that, two things have happened that are undesirable. One is that the relative share of property taxes paid by homeowners has dramatically increased since Prop 13 passed and declined for commercial industrial enterprises. And at the same time, a great deal of revenue that is badly needed by schools and by local governments, which should be generated if there was a reasonable way of adjusting the rate of growth of property taxes from commercial industrial property like there is for residential property. If that had been in place, there would have been a substantial increase in revenue for local government and schools. And this measure tries to fix that by requiring commercial industrial property to be assessed at market value, so that they would no longer get this extraordinary benefit because their property doesn't change hands and it's not reassessed for tax purposes. Let's see, am I in control of this slideshow, or can I move to the next slide? If I'm
I
supposed
think
to.
Andy is,
There we go.
Bob.
Okay, thank you. So this slide briefly says what it does. It changes the way commercial industrial property is assessed to generate substantial revenue for both schools and local governments. It does nothing to increase property taxes for homeowners or renters. It doesn't. Homeowners are exempted. Multifamily property is exempted. Agriculture is exempted. It's narrowly focused on commercial industrial property, and the revenue that's generated will be distributed to the current entities that receive property tax revenues, which is cities, counties, special districts, and schools. In addition, it really eliminates a gross inequity and distortion of the California economy, because a new young company that wants to grow and expand jobs in California and is buying its first building may wind up paying 30 times the level of property taxes as an older company whose only claim to fame is it stayed there. And it's not growing, it's not creating jobs, but simply because it was purchased in 1976, it gets incredible competitive tax advantages versus the new guy. So we ought to give the new guy a fighting chance and not have them facing unfair competition because of the tax code. Next slide, please. So this slide basically shows who's impacted. It's commercial industrial property, residential property, agricultural property are exempt. In the case of mixed use property where 75% or more is used for residential, that's also exempted. So if you have a multifamily property, but the ground floor only is commercial, that would also be exempted. Next slide, please.
And Bob, the two things, I know we gave you 5 minutes. The two things I definitely want you to cover is how the revenue would be distributed.
Okay, thank you. And in fact, if you want to just go to questions, that's fine too. Because this slide.
5 minute marks. I wanted to give you one more minute.
You may not be interested, but in terms of how the money is distributed, when Proposition 13 passed, it was silent about how property taxes would be distributed after it was passed. The legislature passed laws that essentially said, whatever your share of property taxes was before Prop 13, your share of a big pie, you now get the same share of the small pie after Prop 13. So those shares are maintained in schools and communities first. Whatever Sunnyvale's current share is, that's what it will get. Whatever Santa Clara County's share is, that's what it will get. In terms of schools, the overall share of schools will be the same, but it will be distributed based on the local control formula that the state already has in place for allocating revenues to schools.
And when would it go into effect if it passes in November?
Okay, what Schools and Communities First creates is not a hard date, but a process. And what the process, and there's been some confusion about this. So what the process says is in fiscal 22-23, a percentage, in other words, any percentage of the commercial industrial property has to begin the process of reassessment. And the assessor from that point has at least 2 years to finish the assessment of all of the properties in the jurisdiction. And if it takes more than 2 years, that's acceptable because the clear language in the measure says 2 years or more. So you can start small and you can take longer depending on the challenges associated with reassessment, and frankly, depending on the status of the California economy. I mean, if it turns out, and the legislature essentially going to be driving the truck here, they're going to be putting together the task force and making the final decisions in terms of the phase-in. If the legislature makes a judgment that they'd like to wait another year because nobody expected a pandemic to happen and they want to give the economy a little bit more time to recover, that's completely compatible with schools and communities first.
Great, thanks, Bob. So I'll open it up to LAC members to see if they have any questions. Any hands raised? I see Council Member Watanabe.
Thank you, Nisa. Yes, I have two questions. Mr. Brownstein, thank you for the presentation. How long ago were these numbers generated? About how long ago?
Trying to
Did
see
you-
if these are the, I think these are a year out of date. So there's an update for this where the numbers went up higher. And there is no data to tell you what the impact of the pandemic is
Right.
on reassessments. So I can't tell you that, although the data I've seen indicates that fortunately, property values and property taxes are holding up pretty well, considering the challenges that we're facing now, as opposed to sales tax revenue and TOT revenues, which are cratering.
Right, exactly. And then just one other question. Have you done any polling to see how it's being received by the communities?
Yes, there has been polling and it's continually polling, and the polling indicates that the measure is over 50%, depending on which poll you look. It's somewhere between 52 and 53 and 56 and 57. So all the polls don't always agree. There's always some difference in pollsters, but that's roughly where the polls indicate the voters are today. Now, you
And
know,
what is the threshold?
voters will get more information before Election Day, so that's an indicator, but certainly not, you wouldn't take that to the bank.
And what is the threshold for it to pass? Is it 55% or?
No, this is 50% plus one. You only need 55% for school bond.
Okay. Great. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, we actually have a question from Council Member Stadiok. I've already butchered Marika's name. She can't raise her hand, but she would like to ask a question. Go ahead, Marika.
Thank you. So I just want to understand the jump, and this is what I hear from business owners. So within the 2 years, they get reassessed. Is there an ability to phase in how much they owe, or is it an immediate jump to the new reassessed property tax?
Now, actually, that's a good question, because actually the legislature can do two kinds of phasing. On the one hand, it can do phasing in terms of the workload of assessors, because our own assessor has complained mightily that he doesn't want to have to work much harder in terms of doing this. But it also can phase it in terms of the ability of taxpayers to handle it. So it's got freedom of action in both cases. Now I might point out that because of the way this measure is structured and because of the exemptions for small businesses, the vast majority of the economic impact is going to be on a relatively small number of relatively large business enterprises. So your little guy isn't going to be impacted that much to start with. And if he's just over the edge, he just doesn't meet the exemptions, the legislature can give him more space.
And if I may, a follow up to that, Vice Mayor, what is the edge? What determines a small versus a big?
The definition for a small business where the person owns the business, owns the real estate, is $3 million of assessed valuation. And that will be adjusted for inflation over time. But
Right.
day it passes is $3 million.
Thank you.
One other thing I might point out that, and this is particularly beneficial for small guys, big guys, they won't notice it that much, is a lot of small businesses pay property taxes on their equipment. Well, everybody pays property taxes on their equipment, but the bill for the property tax on the equipment can be burdensome for a small business. Small businesses that meet the $3 million threshold, they're under that, they get exempted from their personal property taxes for businesses completely. And if they're slightly above that, they still get a $500,000 exemption. First $500,000 of the value of business equipment isn't taxed. So it's a major advantage for small businesses and was deliberately put in there to make sure that small businesses aren't negatively impacted by this measure.
Thanks, Bob. Next, we have Liz Niz. I know you had your hand raised, but we accidentally put it back down. Do you still have a question?
Yeah. So hi, Bob.
Hello.
A couple of things, because you and I both have good memories and go back away. My recollection was that in 1986, Macy's attempted, or we attempted to bring Macy's into this, and they determined at that time that it would stay as it was, which was the businesses would not be reassessed. So, and also, as I remember through the years, this has been tried a number of times, and I totally support it, but I'm well aware the business is going to come out strongly against it. They've used any number of different arguments, and they have been successful. So why do you think this time has a really good chance of it passing?
Okay, I don't remember, although I am older and remember a lot of stuff, I don't remember the Macy's story.
That was it.
Okay. Why do I think it's going to pass? My own personal view is that something significant happened in the political views of Californians after the recession of 2008. And what happened was people finally started to recognize that it was possible for their local governments to not have enough money to really do the things they care about. And the way you can see that is prior to 2008, almost every effort to pass a general tax failed. If you went to the voters and said, we want taxes just for general government purposes, it was hopeless. Since then, over and over again, we've seen general taxes pass. Santa Clara County passed one, San Jose passed one, other jurisdictions have passed one. And I think the reason for that is that people after the last recession recognized how much their quality of life was impacted when at a very basic level, local government couldn't do its job. And this has also been an increasing recognition as regards schools. So frankly, one of the reasons that the measure is doing well in polling is because the money is going to cities and counties and schools. And people think, you know, that's where I live. That's where I want the money to go. And so they're more inclined to.
I obviously support it, but I do know that there will be a fight.
Thanks, Liz.
I certainly agree. There will be a fight.
Vice Mayor Gibbons.
Thank you. So in spite of the COVID situation, what is the total impact on the state budget? And how would the state address the loss of this revenue?
There really isn't any negative impact on the state budget at all. The money goes to cities, counties, special districts, and schools. And to the extent that there's a loss to the state because businesses are deducting higher property taxes when they file corporate income tax to the state, some of the money off the top makes the state whole. So there's no negative impact on the state budget.
And just to follow up, who's sponsoring it related to Councilmember Niss? Who's sponsoring this?
A lot of people. I mean, it ranges from school boards and teachers organizations to the League of Women Voters to the community.
Sorry to be more specific. Any legislators supporting it?
There are, but I'm the policy guy and not the endorsement guy, so I can get you that information, but I don't have that list in my head.
Do you have a website, Bob, that we can?
I can show you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you go to the
Thanks,
website, they'll give you a current
Right, the list.
indication of the endorsers.
Thanks, Bob. Mayor Scharf?
My only disappointment in this is it's not including reassessment of corporately owned apartment complexes. I guess that was left out just because the narrative would then be you're going to drive up the cost of housing if you assess apartment buildings at their actual value. I think it's a great idea. I remember I've heard Larry Stone come out against this several times because it would, make more work for his office. But I think personally, I think it's a great idea. I don't have direction from my council on this, so I probably couldn't vote one way or another. But personally, I do support it.
Thanks, Stephen.
I'm not sure is there is there a certain group here that you would like me to focus in on because
I think Vice Mayor Gibbons was asking about legislators.
gotcha. Sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions from committee members? If not, should we go to the public? And I don't know if Rod Sinks would like to talk. I see that he's actually on the panelist side. Is he representing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your consideration and was eager to have you consider this in particular light of the ongoing revenue contribution it would make to all of us. The superintendent of our high school district also gave me a really thoughtful presentation a few years ago as she was talking about school funding. She said when Prop 13 was passed, about 2/3 of property taxes came from commercial owners and about 1/3 from homeowners. And in the years since, that ratio has just flipped on its head. And it's because of the things that Bob has talked about. You can see the list here of these legislators that are in support. It has wide support. And I think, my ask would be that you consider endorsing this. If you have to go back to councils, bring it back to your council and have your councils consider this. Look at the amount of money that's on the table here and consider the fact, in my tech world, in my businesses, we had virtual control. We really did have control of the businesses we occupied, the land, the real estate we occupied. We were able to make all kinds of what were called leaseholder improvements. So we had control of the building, but all in name. That is, the title that is registered with the tax assessor. And, it's like every other state in the nation, I believe, reassesses property to market periodically. We have this bizarre phenomenon. So I don't accept the argument from Larry Stone that this can't be done. It's done every other place in the world, pretty much. So I think it's time that we fix this. This is what's called the split roll assessment, and would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. Any other members of the public would like to speak, Andy? I think we only have one attendee. I don't know who that is. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the committee for discussion. Would anybody like to start us off? And I will tell you, it's on the November 2020 ballot, but I know the group ideally wanted to get or endorsement or response to their request for an endorsement by August. And as you know, we do not have a July meeting. So we do have the option of maybe bringing this back in August at our meeting. And that would give us an opportunity to take it to our individual city councils to have that discussion. Anybody?
We have 3 hands raised.
We have 3 hands raised.
I keep forgetting to look over here. Liz, go ahead. Vice Mayor Gibbons.
So I think
No, not.
this is really a big deal. We've tried this before. I'd love to see it pass, but I'd really like to take it back to my council and have their blessing before I say, put it on the ballot with our support. And I noticed, I think the whole list on the side that we just saw didn't have the Palo Alto School Board on it. So I will take it back to my group, and I think if we can do it in August, that would be my choice.
Thanks, Liz. Mayor Scharf?
Yeah, I agree with Liz. I'd like to take it back to my council. I guess I have one other person that's in favor of it based on Rod's views there.
I'm only speaking as myself.
Right, I know, but it's not a Brown Act violation. So, and, you know, personally, we're probably all at home anyway. If we had a special meeting in July, I don't know how many people would be opposed to that, but we can wait till August as well.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks, Stephen. So I'm not hearing that anybody,
You have one more. You have Liz
oh,
Gibbons.
go
You have
ahead,
Liz
go
Gibbons.
ahead,
I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor Gibbons, go ahead.
Thank you. I just support what Councilmember Liz Ness said. I've supported this for years. I would read it more in detail, but it's in principle where I've been for a while, but I took it back.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Kathy?
Thank you, Nisa. Yes, I've actually, I've supported it, and actually I'm listed as an endorser because I would like to see it pass as well, and especially now with the COVID and the impact that's going to have on school districts and cities, et cetera. But it looks like I'm the only council member that has endorsed it. So I would like to go back. I know Larry Stone has come and spoken to us at a council meeting several months ago, and but I would like to definitely bring it back again, and because I too would like to see it pass. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Actually, I just quickly, I see Santa Clara Unified School District did endorse it, so so that's good.
So you have one more hand.
Margaret, Mayor Abacoba?
You, I guess I'm not on the list yet, but I did sign on to endorse.
Oh,
So you endorsed it as well, Margaret?
Yes, and I going to suggest we could endorse it as a city association and bring it back to our councils, but it's sounding like folks want to do it the other way around. But you know, we've done that in the past where we've adopted things at the city association level and then taken it back. So I think it would be fine to do that if folks felt comfortable, but I don't know. I can't read
Do you want to make a motion, Margaret? I'm sensing that we don't have the support that we would need, but we could put a motion on the floor.
Well, okay, I'll make a motion that we endorse the ballot measure. See if it goes anywhere.
Can barely hear you, Margaret.
Oh, that's all. Can you hear me now?
Better.
A little
So
better.
I'll make the motion that we endorse or recommend the cities association endorse the ballot measure.
I'll second.
Thank you.
okay. You ready for a roll?
Yes, ma'am.
Campbell,
No,
Cupertino,
Abstain.
Gilroy,
No.
Los Altos,
No.
Los Altos Hills,
Abstain.
Los Gatos,
Abstain, and for the reasons that I prefer to delay this.
Milpitas, Montessorino. Did we lose Rowena? Morgan Hill. Mountain View,
Aye.
Palo Alto,
Abstain until my council and school board have endorsed it.
San Jose,
Abstain, same reasons.
and Santa Clara.
Abstain until my city council makes a decision.
Saratoga,
Abstain. Same reasons.
Madam Chair,
Sunnyvale.
Abstain for the same reasons.
sorry, I thought we'd gone through all the votes.
That's okay.
And
Um,
Andy, I'm fine with my no vote, but it sounds like abstaining is the position to take if your reason is you want to bring it back to your council, which is the reason for my vote as well, but I'm fine. Go
Okay.
ahead, Vice Mayor
And
Garrett.
I would like to change mine to abstain, just for clarity.
Okay, so it sounds like majority of us want the ability to take it back to our councils, and then we will bring this back in August. Thanks again, Bob. So hopefully we can have you back in August.
It's great information, really is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have less than 15 minutes to go through the housing bills, and I'm actually hoping that we can support one or two of these bills. I'll go in the order they are listed on the agenda, and we'll do the usual where I do a brief overview of the bill, open it up for discussion. And I do have a suggestion on maybe how we can approach responding to these different housing bills. But let's see if we can quickly spend maybe 10 minutes going through these housing bills, just to get a sense of what people are thinking. And these are bills that Andy and I have identified that are actually moving quickly through the process in Sacramento. So we really need, if we want to take a position, we would need to do it today. So SB 1120, that's the Atkins bill. It streamlines the process to create duplexes or subdivide lots in single family designated areas. And it could also increase the number of units on these lots, you know, if you also have ADUs. I will open it up for quick discussion and just to, we're all familiar with these bills. We've all been hearing, reading, talking about them. So, you know, open it up for questions and reactions to supporting it, either opposing, supporting, or not taking a position on SB 1120. Okay, I see Vice Mayor Gibbons. Go ahead, Liz.
So I have not studied this, but as I understand it, this allows legal subdivision of lots for ADUs and other such things. Am I correct on that?
It's not just ADUs, so it allows subdivision of single family zoned lots. And then in addition to that, so you can have up to 4 units on a single family zoned lot.
Okay,
And
so it's just, I'm trying to keep it brief, sorry, because I know you got a lot.
Okay.
So I'm not supportive of subdivisions. I just, at this point in time, I'm not supportive of subdividing. I need to be convinced.
Okay. Mayor Scharf.
Yeah, I would oppose this for several reasons. First, it should be up to the cities. Second, when you add an ADU to an existing lot, you're not getting any more parcel taxes for that lot, which our schools, especially in CUSD, depend on heavily. And you're going to be adding students to the school. You're not going to be getting any more parcel tax for that second unit. It defeats the whole purpose of R1 zoning. It would also encourage investors to come in, buy up single family homes, end up building 4 units,
Right.
renting them out and reducing home ownership, which we are really trying to encourage, especially in light of all that's happened in our country in the past couple of weeks. So I would just have an opposed position, not even if amended. I think the bill is hopeless.
So if you'll, thanks, Stephen. So if you'll oblige me, I don't see any other hands. Oh, I just saw
There's a
one.
bunch.
Marilyn.
Thank you. The city of Saratoga actually has on its books Measure G, which is the wish of our voters. And it says you cannot subdivide without a vote of the community. So I am no way in a place to vote for this. I absolutely oppose.
Okay. Mayor Wu.
Yes, yeah, just really quick, I strongly oppose.
Okay, thanks,
The
Michelle.
reason being, it has been already said, so I don't need to repeat. And I think the single family unit should remain as is.
Okay. Anybody else on the committee? So if you'll oblige me, what I would like to do is go through, because they're all listed under one agenda item. So it allows us to do this. So we could go through each one and then take votes at the end. Also, I have a suggestion, as I said at the beginning, about maybe one way we can lump them together. The next bill we have on the list is SB 899, and it's a Wiener bill. Maybe it's a Wiener bill we can support. It allows churches and nonprofit hospitals to build housing on their land. So I'll open it up for questions and discussion.
Okay, I will raise my hand.
Go ahead, Mayor Sharp.
Oh, okay. So the concern here we have in my area is we have a lot of churches that back directly up to R1 neighborhoods. And the concern is that we would not want right by the fence line a 4 or 5 story building overlooking a residential neighborhood. And I don't know if anything in this bill prevents that. Maybe someone, can mention that. And why, Nisa, I appreciate why you want to support at least one of these bills. Looking at the, it's very hard. But if you can explain to me how this would still protect the adjoining neighborhoods to churches, that would be great.
I can give you some real life examples, and I agree there would have to be buffer zones and other things to allow, the privacy and the retention of the single family zone areas that abut these high density buildings. But you and I can talk about that. I know we have limited time. I see Councilmember Liz Miss has her hand raised.
And just quickly, Anissa, my council is very split on this, and I think for me to vote to support it would not be appropriate given what I know the background is of my own particular group.
Okay. Next, we have Vice Mayor Liz Gibbons.
Thank you. Going along the lines with Palo Alto, I don't think my community, my council members would support this, but more, there's no overlying zoning. It's by right, but by right for what? Is it allowed to be 20 units an acre or 5 units an acre? What's the zoning that would be the by right allowance? And I don't understand that. So if you can explain that, that would help me explain it to others. But for now, I would not be able to support. Appreciating the effort.
Mayor Wu. Can you hear us, Michelle?
Yeah, hi. I have a question I'd like to clarify. I might have not heard at the beginning. Is that the churches and nonprofit organization allowed to build?
Yes.
And what about the school, like a community school or any school that seems to have adequate land that may be able to build a housing for faculties or even temporarily for student temporary housing? Does this bill including school?
It doesn't.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I want to clarify that.
Councilmember Larson.
Yeah, thank you. As sympathetic as I am to housing in these circumstances, I think I would have a difficult time taking a support position right now without further analysis by my city. And one of the concerns is really the loss of community facility land that we, for example, in Sunnyvale, we have a number of churches that are situated next to residential neighborhoods. And there's been a lot of pressure on those to convert to housing. And once they convert to housing, they're not going to go back to being community serving spaces. And so we've had concerns about losing those spaces just due to the financial pressures that housing brings. So I think, you know, in the interest of local control and cities being able to determine where it does and does not make sense, I don't think I can support the bill at this time. Thanks.
Thanks, Gustav. Anybody else? Okay, moving down the list. Next we have 795, which is a Senator Bell. Maybe this is the one we can support,
Yes.
Mayor Scharf.
Okay, I will go.
Yes.
I supported SB 5.
Yeah, it's an amendment, so you know it's just an update.
And it was so sad that it was vetoed by Governor Newsom. It was really the only bill that would build affordable housing, and it got vetoed. And I support 795. I cannot imagine Governor Newsom signing this bill now, especially considering our economic situation, but I do support it.
Okay. Anybody else on SB 795?
The city of San Jose is already supporting that bill.
Okay, thanks, Chaplain. Okay, 902, another Wiener bill. Again, it's in single-family zoned areas. It allows high-density multi-unit housing. It depends on your population size. It goes up, obviously, the larger your population. It would eliminate the CEQA process if you're building 10 or more units. And it would also be a streamlined process. So any questions, comments? I already heard Mayor Scharf's reaction.
Okay, then I won't say anything more.
Right. Gustav?
Yeah, so my understanding of the bill is that it does not outright allow the 10 units. Instead, the bill authorizes cities to pass an ordinance allowing it. So in that respect, it actually respects local control because it's up to the cities to decide if they want to zone for that or not.
Okay,
Listen, this is Marika, a quick question. So if cities are allowed to do that anyway, I'm just asking, does this facilitate the process because it waives CEQA?
That's one of the benefits that Wiener is proposing with 902, which it would streamline the whole, there would be no CEQA if it's 10 or more units, which is, so it would move the process a little bit quicker.
Got it, thank you.
So I really oppose
No other-
bypassing CEQA. And I oppose the definition of transit-rich areas. If anyone doesn't know what that is, Cupertino is a transit-rich area, even though we really have no mass transit. So this is just, you know, unacceptable to me.
Okay, no other comments. SB 1085, it's the Skinner bill on the density bonus law. So it's modifying the density bonus law. It's targeted to rental housing developers and it allows them to increase the size of the project. It still keeps up to 35%. If it has a certain percent of moderately priced units. And this is expanding it. I think one of the things I've heard or read is that the goal here is also to target teachers. So it's that moderate in that middle group, the missing middle. And another thing this bill would require is that cities could not impose impact fees on the specific affordable units.
On the specific affordable units, not the total.
Not the whole thing, on the.
So as long as the state backfills the loss mitigation fees, that, you know, that would be okay. But, you know, we all depend on mitigation fees. They're not fees that go to our general fund. These are fees that pay for the actual infrastructure of projects.
Anybody else? Councilmember Vice Mayor Gibbons, then Councilmember Nis.
Okay, where am I going here? Oh, my main problem with any density bonus legislation is that it doesn't solve the current flaw, the underlying flaw of all density bonus, which is for all of our cities that have inclusionary ordinances, typically 15%, sometimes higher. The density bonus allows the developer to double count it. And in fact, cities get very, very few benefits of density bonus units in count because of that. And two, if you have inclusionary units, it's my understanding that the city can set the requirement that they have to be affordable for a period of years, be it 30, 40, 50, whatever. If you do density bonus, there's a mandate that they have to have cost sharing. So if they turn over in a year or 5 years, non-affordable units. So until those core problems are solved with density bonus law, anything makes no sense to me.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Jones?
Yeah, so San Jose, we have a little different take on it. Concern was that there was a hidden section that's would remove a clause, significant adverse impact on the environment, which would prohibit us from denying a project if they're, say, tear down a historical building or heritage trees or other environmental factors that the city would want to retain or prevent from being removed or torn down. So we have those concerns about the bill.
That's 1085, Chappie.
Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, then moving on to SB 995, which is another Atkins bill, and it's again CEQA. Mayor Scharf, where they would limit the environmental review, the CEQA process, for projects with 15% or more affordable units, and I think it's by right. So, we all know CEQA impact of traffic, air, and everything else that's involved in that CEQA process. So that's SB 995.
Okay.
Mayor Scharf?
I'm kind of amazed that it's, I guess it's a single party system in California now, even though I'm a hardcore Democrat. I'm kind of amazed that now it's the Democrats that are trying to get rid of all the environmental protection that everyone worked so hard to put into place. So I have a really hard time every time I see a bill that tries to eliminate CEQA, and I don't like the excuses they use to try to say that CEQA is not necessary. Yeah, I would not support. It would be really hard to support a bill that eliminates the CEQA requirements.
And as you know, Mayor Scharf, one of the responses to that is, yes, you have CEQA, but every local jurisdiction still does their own environmental review. They have their own process. It's not as extensive and it's not a CEQA review process. So it would eliminate the CEQA process, but I wouldn't say it eliminates any kind of environmental review. But point made. But Vice Mayor Gibbons?
Thank you. Quick comment is, as I said before, almost all cities, I believe, have inclusionary ordinances of 15% for projects, 10 or more units. Some have it 5 or more units. This would virtually eliminate all CEQA review. Expecting your point about local versus formal CEQA, it's a backdoor into eliminating all CEQA review.
Thanks, Liz. Mariko?
No, I'm good. That exactly Liz's comment that for Los Gatos, our BMP is higher, and so this circumvents that.
Gustav, do you have a comment on 995?
Yeah, so looking at it, I guess I'm not seeing where it circumvents CEQA. It extends an existing streamlining, and then it enhances judicial review, which is just when it goes to expedited judicial review when it goes to court. I'm just not seeing where it circumvents or gets rid of any CEQA that's required today. Thanks.
Thanks, Gustav. Yes, it limits the environmental review. I agree with you. I don't think it completely gets rid of all environmental review. And what I've read, people who are in support of it have said that people are exaggerating the fact that, oh, there won't be any environmental review. So thanks for that point, Gustav. Councilmember Niz?
And this is one that I would probably support this. I have some discomfort because we haven't discussed it recently as a council, but if there was one that I could support, it would probably be this one, meaning me supporting it.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so we're almost there, Larry. Two more. SB 1385, Caballero. And this one I wasn't as familiar with. So it allows residential projects on lands currently zoned commercial and retail, commercial or retail. And if someone knows more about that bill, please share. And I know it would allow for densities that are deemed, what is it called, affordable by design. So I don't know much about this bill. I have not read up on this bill, but essentially that's my understanding. It would allow residential projects, and it's similar where we just talked about, you know, the churches and the nonprofit organizations being able to build residential units on their property. This is now allowing residential properties on land currently zoned commercial and retail. So I see Councilmember Liz Niz. Is that from the prior bill, Liz?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Mayor
should lower
Scharf?
my hand. Yes.
Yeah, we discussed this in our legislative committee and we were struggling to find something wrong with it, but it
I couldn't
seems,
find anything.
it seems like, I mean, we can already rezone commercial land for housing if we want. And I think there's going to be a lot of this kind of rezoning going on because there seems to be a big surplus of Class A office space coming online and too much commercial property, especially with working from home. So I couldn't find anything terrible about this, surprisingly.
I couldn't find a lot on it either. Pros or cons, apart from the text of the bill. Anybody else? I see Vice Mayor Jones.
Yes, we had some concerns on that bill. One is that if they have their property is vacant, 50% vacant over 3 years, then they can convert. And our concern, particularly the shopping centers, the small businesses, that a property owner might say, hey, I can make more money in housing. Let me keep this property vacant for 3 years and then circumvent some of our controls about commercial property conversions and convert it over to residential. So we have some major concerns about that.
Thanks, Chappie. Vice Mayor Gibbons.
Along the same lines, we all want to take a good look at our general plans and our zoning maps, because when we do our housing elements in another 12 to 18 months, there's new legislation that requires us to find more land and not reuse land and not use land over 10 acres or less than half an acre. So this bill may be helpful, but it also may be detrimental. I need to learn a little bit more about it.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Kent, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, we talked about this in the call with Senator Hill's office last week. And when I read it, I found it very problematic. My reading was it compelled you to allow residential on any site that allowed commercial or office. And it didn't distinguish industrial zone properties that allow office. I brought up that point. And so it looked really problematic to me. I did reach out to Senator Hill's staff and asked, gee, did I miss something? Here's what it says. It says every commercial and office property can be put to residential use without the city's approval. And so, you know, they're researching it and they said they'd get back to me, but it looked very problematic where you're going to see strip centers, El Camino, things that you may not want to change, go to residential.
Thank you, Kent.
That's interesting.
Gustav?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what Kent said, that I'd be very concerned about cannibalizing our commercial areas, losing sales tax, and also office, because there is so much pressure for housing. Just in Sunnyvale, we've been very careful about which commercial or industrial office areas are allowed to convert to residential and which are not allowed. I think this would really subvert that process. Thanks.
I mean, it ties back to local control. We can decide to do that as opposed to having the bill pass and become law. Okay, I don't see, oh, Michelle, Mayor Wu.
So I hear the different opinion, but I was wondering, what if like we can allow the mixed use? So if you have a commercial land and you say, okay, you can keep your commercial, but maybe we can build a secondary, third story unit on top of that as a mixed use, that you have both residential as well as commercial. On the other hand, if you have a residential and then you want to do commercial zoning, what you can do is also mixed use, that you can keep the residential at the same time mixing with commercial. So that way you don't lose your commercial, you don't lose your sales tax, but at the same time you do have the the housing unit built probably mostly on top of it. That's just my thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. So that would be a suggestion on how they can amend it. I don't see any other hands. So the last bill we have on our list to consider tonight is AB 2580. And this would, maybe this is one, it would simplify the process to convert, is it hotels and motels into housing? I can't find the sponsor of the bill. Any thoughts on AB 2580? It's the only assembly bill that's on our list. Mayor Scharf.
I'm just concerned about the loss of TOT if this were to take effect. Thank you.
Do you think there's going to be a rush to try to convert hotels and motels to housing?
I don't know, but it depends how we recover from the current COVID-19 crisis. If the hotel occupancy goes back up to 100%, then probably nobody would do it. But if there's a sustained reduction in travel, I could see hotels saying, oh, we're going to go either rental apartments or condos.
Okay, Kathy, Councilmember Watanabe.
Yeah, thank you, Nisa. With the recommendation that our staff put together has this as a watch, because it states, according to the staff, it says that the Assembly Appropriations, it was AB 2550 was held on the Assembly Appropriations suspense file and is no longer eligible for consideration. So
2580, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
so,
when did that happen?
I mean, I just got this today, so.
Okay.
Maybe
it got stopped.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that update.
Okay.
Liz, Vice Mayor Gibbons.
Just a quick thought. Campbell has already been benefit of a state takeover. It's good. It's a good location. It's a good place, but we've already had the state take over a hotel here in Campbell. And my concern is when the governor was here making that announcement, he said about the city taking over the hotel as residential when FEMA money runs out. So I got nervous.
Thanks for that, Liz. Okay, so we're at the end of the housing bills. I think the only bill that I heard some support for is the bill SB 795. I think majority of what I heard related to the other bills is that we oppose. So I'll entertain a motion where we oppose all the housing bills and we support SB 795. The other option I was going to suggest, so in our city in Los Altos, what we did on Tuesday was we drafted a letter that listed all the different housing bills, but we took the position that because of the impact of COVID, so we listed the different ways COVID has impacted cities and whether or not some of these bills really need to be reconsidered in light of COVID, for example, people working from home, telecommuting, there are all these things that may change the thinking and direction behind a lot of these bills. And so our request as a council focused on, delaying or holding off on moving forward with these different housing bills. So we could take either approach. We could combine them in a letter where we still mention the COVID impacts. But I'm open to a motion. Oh, let's do public comment. I forgot about public comment, Andy. Do we have any public comment on the bills that we just went through?
Hold on a second.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anybody that would like to talk or give comment on the bills? I think that some of these people are here for our board meeting. If you would like to.
Margaret, and I see Margaret has her hand raised.
Go ahead for Margaret, and just a reminder to the panelists that if they would like to unmute themselves to toggle, it's a *6 or a *9 to raise their hand. I'm sorry, the attendees who are on by phone.
Thank you. So I wanted to see if we needed to actually take opposed positions on all the bills. SB 1120 is one of the co-sponsors is Senator Hill, who's been very responsive to us and in his district. And I would rather just prefer to stay silent than actually oppose it. And actually, I don't even know, our city hasn't taken positions, but in reading it, like in our city, I live in an R3 zone property in a single family neighborhood. So, I don't know if we're unusual in that way, but I think this is already in existence. So I'm not super opposed to it personally. So yes, in light of who, Senator Hill's been very good to us, I would prefer to just stay silent on that bill rather than outright oppose it.
Any opposition or concern with what Margaret just said? Any response?
No, I would agree with what Margaret just said. So I'm glad you said that, Margaret.
Which bill is that? What bill is that?
It is SB 1120. It's Atkins, but Jerry Hill is a co-sponsor.
Okay.
I see Chappie's hand.
Yes, I just wanted kind of ties into what was stated earlier. I just want a point of clarification. If we're in agreement on SB 795, can we bifurcate that and just vote for that? And then, because I would want to abstain from the other items.
Okay, I mean, we can do that. We can start with SB 795, take a vote on that, and then do the others.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to support SB 795.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I think it was Stephen.
Yeah, Mayor Scharf seconds.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Andy, do you want to call the vote?
Roll call.
Yes. Okay. So it's to support 795, motion by Vice Mayor Jones and a second by Mayor Scharf. Campbell,
Yes.
Cupertino,
Yes.
Gilroy,
No.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Abstain.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Abstain.
Montessorino, Morgan Hill,
Abstain.
Mountain View,
Aye.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
San Jose,
Yes.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
and Saratoga,
Aye.
and Sunnyvale.
Yes.
Motion passes. 10 yeses. 1 no. 3 abstentions and 1 absent.
Thanks,
And
Andy.
hooray, that makes 15.
Brian, well, one's absent. In the interest of time, does someone want to put a motion on the floor as to the other bills that were discussed?
I'll put it on. Sorry.
Is that Vice
That
Mayor?
was Liz.
Okay. Oh, Liz,
That's the other Liz.
the other Liz. Okay, thanks, Liz. Is there a second?
What is the motion?
I missed the motion too.
Oh, I'm sorry. As to the other housing bills on the list under discussion and consideration of bills, to recommend to the board to send a letter opposing these bills.
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Kathy, on the 995, it seemed like there was mixed support or opposition to 995. I mean, I'm taking the position of supporting it, but it sounded like there were several others that supported it as well. I don't think it's totally opposed.
So Kathy, what I have for 995, you're right. I think a lot of people wanted clarity on what it really means. And some people had the impression that it's not as bad as it may sound, but it was mostly opposition, but you're right. So you are supporting it, you're in support of it. I didn't hear anybody actually come out right and say they also support it.
Okay.
So I will take a motion to support it. And we could go down each bill. I was trying to put them together in the interest of time, but let's go through each bill if that will make it easier. So do we have a motion for SB 1120?
I thought we just did that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we take an opposed position to SB 1120.
Second.
Which, was that Liz?
Carmen
Oh,
Montano.
Karma, I'm sorry. Thank you. I wasn't looking. Okay, Campbell,
No, sorry, we're voting to
to
not,
oppose 1120.
Yeah,
then yes.
Cupertino,
yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Montessorino, Morgan Hill,
Aye.
Mountain View,
No.
Palo Alto.
Yes, which means no, correct?
You want to oppose it would be a yes.
Yes. Yes.
San Jose,
Abstain.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Aye.
Sunnyvale.
Yes.
The yeses have it. Do you want me to go and count it all? I just, in the interest of time, I have a no for Mountain View, no vote for Montessorino, and abstention from San Jose.
Okay. So SB 899, can we get a motion on the floor?
So move.
Move to recommend opposition, Liz?
Yes, sorry, you move to, let's see. Yes, move to for opposition on SB 899.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to oppose SB 899, motion by Vice Mayor Gibbons and a second by Councilmember Kathy Watanabe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Campbell,
Yes.
Cupertino,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Abstain.
Los Altos Hills,
Abstain.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Montessorino, Morgan Hill,
Abstain.
Mountain View,
Abstain.
Palo Alto,
Abstain.
San Jose,
Abstain.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Aye.
Sunnyvale.
Abstain.
There are 7 yeses.
So did it pass? So there's 7, there are 15, or is it just?
No, did not pass.
It did not pass. Okay.
No.
Okay, moving on. SB 902.
Remind us which one that is.
That is the Wiener allow high density multi-units in residential neighborhoods, streamlining the CEQA process. Well, no CEQA process for projects with 10 or more units. I mean, it depends on your population size as well. I mean, there are a couple of nuances to it.
Kind of the SB 50 replacement here. So I'll make a motion that we take an opposed position to SB 902.
I'll second. Mary Lynn.
Thank you. So we have a motion to oppose SB 902 from Mayor Scharf with a second from Vice Mayor Mary Lynn Bernald. Campbell,
Yes.
Cupertino,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Montesarino, Morgan Hill,
Aye.
Mountain View,
Aye.
Palo Alto.
Abstain, and I realize a lot of this is difficult because of COVID. 3 months ago, I might have voted differently, but it's tough when you're not quite sure what's going to happen next.
San Jose,
Abstain.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Aye.
and Sunnyvale.
Abstain.
The motion passes. 4 abstentions, 1 absent, the rest yes.
Thanks, Sandy. SB 1085. It's the Skinner Density Bonus Law Bill. Do we have a motion on the floor? We can also decide not to recommend anything to the full board.
Depending on the schedule, I would make a motion that we don't recommend anything else to the board at this time.
I'll second.
And did you want to do a roll call on that?
Sure. So we have a motion not to take any more bills to the board because of time by Vice Mayor Gibbons with a second from Vice Mayor Bernald. Campbell,
Yes.
Cupertino,
No.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Los Altos,
Yes.
Los Altos Hills,
Yes.
Los Gatos,
Yes.
Milpitas,
Yes.
Montesarino, Morgan Hill,
Aye.
Mountain View,
Aye.
Palo Alto,
Yes.
San Jose,
Aye.
Santa Clara,
Yes.
Saratoga,
Aye.
and Sunnyvale.
Yes.
Motion passes. 1 no, 1 absent, and 13 yeses.
Great, thank you. And in the letters that we will draft, we will have the normal statement about housing bills and the impact of COVID. That should be broad enough to cover some of our concerns here. So thank you, everybody. Should we go
Oh,
to the?
I have a question. Are we going to bring back the other bills to talk about at another meeting or what?
So our next meeting, Mayor Scharf, is scheduled for August. So that may be cutting it close, but yes, if it's still making its way through, we will definitely put this back on.
Okay. And I just want to say, I don't like the whole idea that the legislator is forcing us to take opposed positions on these bills. And I know many of our cities are struggling to try to get our developers to build more housing and more affordable housing. And it makes us seem anti-housing, and that is not an accurate description, I think, for many of us.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, should we go to the public? And let's just check if there's any comment from members of the public.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there any members of the public who are attendees that would like to speak? You can hit *6 to toggle your mute and unmute button.
So, hi, I don't know whether this is the right time. This is Pranjali from Seva International.
No, it's not.
No,
No, that
it's
will be
been
that will be
recorded.
after the main meeting later.
Okay,
We're gonna get started with that meeting soon. Thank you. Okay,
sorry, just making sure.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
okay.
Thank you. We're running late.
No worries, no worries. I'll go on mute.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands. So again, just a reminder, if there are bills or items you want us to consider at LAC, just let me or Andy know to everybody. And we will adjourn at 7:28. Chair Klein, what time do you want to kick off your meeting?
Let's try 2 minutes and give everybody a quick break, but we'll start at 7:30.
Not very long.
I know. Sorry, everyone.
No, sorry, thank you.
So we don't need to sign in again, right?
No,
No.
you can stay on. I'm just going to end the recording.